Inside North Dakota Politics with Nicholas Quallich, Josh Meny, and political correspondent Maddie Biertempfel.
Welcome to Inside North Dakota Politics. I'm Maddie Biertempfel.
And I'm Nicholas Quallich. Josh is away for the week. We've reached halftime at the state capitol.
Lawmakers are on break for what's called crossover. That means in the coming week, the Senate will take up bills that passed in the House and vice versa.
But even though the House and Senate chambers are empty, there's a lot to talk about this week. So let's get right into it.
A host of allegations were revealed against Dickinson Representative Luke Simons this week. Dating back to 2018, he's accused of sexually aggressive, lewd, and threatening behavior. The emails show a comment in which a redacted source says Simons suggested he would hit her child with his car. In another interaction, he references removing a woman's shirt to provide aid to a wound during a car accident and whether that would be sexual harassment. We spoke to a former legislative council employee who says the accusations are in line with her knowledge of working with Simons. She says there are at least 4 women she knows of who filed the complaints. She explained that after multiple women complained to Council Director John Bjornson, Simons was formally banned from working with female staff.
One of my colleagues had him in her office, and he had made the comment about how he wore women's underwear and how she could help him with it and how he buys it for his wife. And it was just really uncomfortable for her. And she came out and she looked so disheveled and just, you could tell she was really freaked out and uncomfortable. By the end of that year, he was banned from talking to any of the females in the legislative council staff. We had a meeting and memos and things like that were sent, and it was just like, hey, he's only supposed to talk to the male staff, so if he comes in, you grab one of us immediately. I know John Bjornson has been named, and he's the current director, and he really went to bat for us, especially us girls, trying to, make sure that we felt safe and secure and protected.
After the allegations were made public, Simons took to Facebook. In a lengthy live video, he argued the claims are politically motivated.
And I'm not sorry for being outspoken. I'm not sorry for putting myself out there. But when you do this, you are going to absolutely make enemies in high places. Ephesians 6. So, therefore, you're going to have a lot of lying done about you. This here is a bunch of lying.
Despite his denial of the claims, House leadership called for Representative Simons to resign Friday. Majority Leader Chet Pollard says if he refuses to step down, the legislature will consider expulsion.
And of course, we'll continue to follow that story. But also this week, some big proposals made progress toward becoming law, including recreational marijuana. The House voted to legalize marijuana for recreational use for adults 21 years or older.
There's a lot of things I don't agree with, but if it's good policy, and I think it's going to be the betterment of the state of North Dakota, I vote for it. And so I ask for a green vote. Thank you. Pot.
Let's vote green. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a rude awakening for all of us. If it's not good for teens, what makes it good for and safe for adults?
The bill ultimately passed 56-38. To become law, it needs to also get the approval of the Senate and a signature from the governor.
A bill related to the Second Amendment got the okay in the House. House Bill 1383 would prohibit state law enforcement from helping federal agencies investigate gun violations. Under the bill, the group requesting assistance would have to go to state district court and show that a national security threat exists to get that help. Representative Rick Becker says the bill is meant to preserve the Second Amendment in light of legislation being considered in Congress that would require national licensing and registration of firearms.
Can you imagine putting our local law enforcement in the position that they have to go to someone's house and knock on the door and say, we're arresting you for the gun that you have, or you have 30-round magazines for your AR. We're taking that. Or we're taking your AR because you don't have a military-style federal license. What kind of position, what kind of danger are we putting them in?
That bill passed by a vote of 59-34.
North Dakotans are a step closer to being allowed to vote on online sports betting. The House of Representatives passed a pair of resolutions that would put the issues of both internet live poker and sports betting up for a statewide vote. The issue has come up time and time again, and while those in opposition say they're concerned about addiction and other issues that may arise with this being allowed, supporters say it should be up to the people.
Poker is something that's kind of going on now, but there's no regulation in the state as far as taxing that or anything like that. We've had this discussion a couple sessions in a row now, so this is just this is us putting it on the ballot again for the people to decide whether or not this is something they think North Dakota should be part of.
House Resolutions 3012 and 3032 will go on to the Senate, then the governor's desk.
After that, it would be up to the people of North Dakota to decide in the next statewide election.
And lawmakers voted to give themselves greater say in the governor's declarations.
House Bill 1495 would, in part, limit a statewide emergency to 30 days with the possibility of an extension, but only by a vote of the legislature. According to the bill, if the governor wanted the emergency to exist beyond that, he would have to call a special session of the Legislative Assembly. It passed by a vote of 75 to 19.
Up next on Inside North Dakota Politics, a mid-session check-in with two leaders from the Senate on both sides of the aisle, starting with Senate Majority Leader Rich Wardner. Stay tuned.
Discovering the perfect paint for your home has never been easier with Zinsser Smart Coat. Plan smart with interactive tools at smartcoat.com. Buy smart in-store or online for home delivery. And paint smart with this advanced paint and primer in one. Say hello to Zinsser Smart Coat, the next generation of intelligent paint, exclusively at Menards.
Leading local for the communities we serve. KX News. Putting North Dakota first.
Our local service providers do so much for us. They save lives, serve, and protect.
They do this service out of duty and commitment to the community. That's why KX News wants to give back. Each month, KX News will deliver breakfast or lunch to a local public service team.
And that evening, we'll introduce you to those heroes who serve and protect your community every day.
KX gives back. KX News' commitment to putting North Dakota first.
Sponsored by McDonald's.
The world is a noisy place. People talk at each other and over each other, but nobody talks to each other. It gets us angry and it makes us cynical, and we don't learn or grow. I want to change that. So every night, we're going to sit down with America's top newsmakers and biggest celebrities, and I'm going to show you what happens when we have a conversation, when we actually communicate. So let's talk.
Banfield, starting tomorrow, 10/9 Central on News Nation.
Welcome back to Inside North Dakota Politics on KX.
Well, it's time for recess for the 67th Legislative Assembly, or what's known as crossover break. And we wanted to get some insight on how things are going from those spending a lot of time at the North Dakota State Capitol. Joining us now to discuss that is Senate Majority Leader Rich Wardner. Senator, thanks for setting aside some time for us.
Well, thank you, and I'm glad to do it.
Senator,
by the way, it's something else. It's called tax time, too.
Yeah.
You got to get your taxes done during the crossover.
Boy, good reminder. All that aside, though, the dominant headline of this legislative session, and I guess our news headlines, has been the coronavirus and dealing with it. How do you feel your colleagues have dealt with all the protocols put in place?
Well, I think they've done a very good job of it. The fact of the matter is we are gone through the first part of our legislative session without any real issues. We had 2 people that had the virus, and guess what? We continued business as usual. And I don't know if it was a mask. I don't know if it's a distancing. I don't know if it's we take our temp every day. We take rapid tests 3 times a week. And I think putting all those together, we were able to kind of avoid any outbreaks of the coronavirus.
So working together in kind of an all-together package, you would say, of all those ingredients.
I would say so. And like I said, the two that did it contacted, one of them contacted it right at the beginning of the session and never missed a beat, was able to work via conference, video conference, and the other one was about 3 weeks in, and they also, they weren't very sick or anything like that, so they participated. So as far as we're concerned in the Senate, we never missed a beat, and we didn't have any staff that got sick or anything like that, so very fortunate. And I think some of the protocols that we put in place are the reason that we were able to get the job done.
Sure. Well, speaking of doing well, it's not over until it's over, but what piece or pieces of legislation do you believe have a good chance of making it to the finish line once they get to you over in the Senate?
Well, I'd like to think the bonding bill is going to be a bill that we're going to pass and get out there, because money right now is cheap. Taking care of the funding of the bonds is the lowest percent that it's been in a long time. We're going to be at around 1.6 or 1.7%, which is less than the 2%, and inflation is 3%. So in that bonding package, we're going to be doing projects that we're going to do anyway. May have been 4, 5, 6 years down the road, but we can do them now, and actually it's going to cost the state less in the long run if we do them now than if we wait until we have cash.
How about the biggest disappointment?
At this point, I don't know if there's a big disappointment. Things have gone so well that it's been just smooth sailing. I can't speak for the House, but over in the Senate, I think things have gone very well. We've been able to keep the budget in check, doing a good job, the appropriations people. We did add a few things in spending, but they're all things that are going to bring back, I think, returns to the state. One of them being research dollars for doing a bore into the salt caverns so that we can have a place to store ethane and possibly a petrochem in the future. However, the big reason is for the siting of a plant that generates electricity with ethane. Ethane happens to be as cheap a way you can generate electricity as there is, and we need to get rid of the ethane out in the oil patch, so it's a win-win. There's also money for the intermodal up at Minot. Those are a couple of projects that we added on.
Well, I want to talk about a different kind of plant for just a second, and that's, of course, marijuana, recreational marijuana. We covered it just the other day, growing and possessing it. In another bill, marijuana would be made taxable. Is the marijuana debate too big to ignore now, Senator?
Well, absolutely. We got 3 states around us and the Canadian provinces that all have recreational marijuana, so we're going to have to confront this issue. I'm not a big fan of recreational marijuana, but if we let the issue go on the ballot in initiated measure, we might end up with something we don't like. At least if we do it with the legislature, at least we can put the regulations in place, put the taxation in place, and things of that nature so that we have it under control. We do not want it to get out of hand like it has in some places.
And finally, I want to ask you about another topic, and that's Stand Your Ground. That's a bill that passed the House, removing the duty to retreat requirement in certain scenarios. Representative Koppelman said, quote, "You don't have to check a box and say, did I look to see if there was a watermelon to hide behind?" Colorful illustrations aside, if the Senate gives it the okay, will this be more of a benefit or a concern, do you think?
Oh, I think it'll be a benefit. I don't have a problem with it. I think it's the right thing. We have situations where people are trying to defend their own property and they end up being prosecuted. So we'll take a look at the bill and study it and deal with it on the Senate side. I'm not sure where the majority of the Senate is, but like I said, we will give it a good hearing and a good review before we make a decision.
Well, we look forward to seeing what happens when everybody comes back, and I also look forward to doing my duty and getting my taxes done. Senate Majority Leader Rich Warner, thanks so much.
Very good. Thank you.
Straight ahead on Inside North Dakota Politics, the Assistant Senate Minority Leader, Aaron Oban of Bismarck. Stay with us.
You love your car, and when you get in an accident, you'd love to get it back as soon as possible and looking like new. We're Jerome's Collision Center, and when you need us, we'll be there for you. Jerome's Collision Center. Find out for yourself.
The coal industry, that's what got me here.
My job at the coal mine was a blessing.
Almost everyone who lives in town is either in the coal industry or they're related to someone in the coal industry. Really, this community's heart and soul is in the coal industry.
I'm Lee.
I'm Kate.
I'm a heavy equipment operator.
I work at B&I Coal in Center, North Dakota.
And I am Lignite.
In the truck game, greatness is defined by a relentless commitment to the customer, forged over decades, built by a team resolute in helping you achieve your greatness. Experience this award-winning lineup today. Ford F-Series, America's best-selling truck for 44 years straight and counting.
Now get up to $5,000 in total savings on the all-new 2021 F-150, only at your Northland Ford dealers.
Thank you, North Dakota, for nominating the remarkable women in your life. Now we want to introduce the finalists to you. Join KX News at 9 on the Dakota's CW and KX News at 10 every Tuesday during the month of March as we feature inspirational stories of these remarkable women.
Remarkable Women of North Dakota, every Tuesday on KX News at 9 on the Dakota's CW and KX News at 10. Brought to you by Basin Electric Power Cooperative, recognizing remarkable women of North Dakota. Welcome back to Inside North Dakota Politics on KX.
Now it's time to hear from the Democratic side on how the legislature has gone thus far. And for that, we are joined by Assistant Minority Leader, Senator Aaron Oban. Senator, thanks for your time today.
Happy to be with you. Thanks for inviting me.
Are you enjoying your break so far?
I am. It was time for a little breather and just a rest from the work, and then we'll be back at it next week.
Now, we just heard from Senator Warner, and now I'll start by asking you, how have things gone with all the COVID restrictions in place?
Well, I think for starters, I am so pleasantly surprised by how little it has impacted us, whether it be legislators, our staff, or the public who come in to testify. So I'm optimistic that we can get through the second half of the session and hope that we realize that, maybe our actions are influencing that fact. So I hope we continue to follow those precautions and to keep each other safe so we can just finish the work and get home safely to our families.
Now, as we mentioned earlier, it's crossover time, meaning that you all are switching bills, being the House and Senate. What are your hopes as far as specific legislation that you would like to see passed by the end of the legislature?
Sure. So, the Dem NPL legislators, our caucus came in with really 4, I would say, major priorities and making sure we get through and recover from this pandemic in the short term, but also that we're making decisions that are in the best interest of our state in the long term, so that we aren't just reactive, in these next couple of years, but that we're really laying the steps and the framework for a good decade, 2 decades down the road. And so those 4 major priorities have been to protect the health and well-being of North Dakotans, whether that's physical or behavioral health, to really stabilize, diversify, and strengthen our state's economy, to meet the infrastructure demands of our communities that we've heard loud and clear, whether those are small or large communities, and to adequately support public education funding, which we know whatever the state does not put in falls on the backs of property taxpayers. So I certainly keep that in mind whenever we are making those recommendations for what we're funding our public schools at the level from the state.
Now, I asked Senator Warner about disappointments as well. In other words, is there something you've been watching on the House side that you thought you would like to see make it over to the Senate and it won't?
Yeah, I think we're making some decent progress on some of those priorities. Obviously, I have some pretty different opinions on some of the bills that are coming over from the House. Not only do they not speak to those priorities, but I really don't think they're in the best interest of our state in the long run. And I worry a little bit about what appears to be the difference between the House and the Senate with regard to what we're willing to do for bonding for infrastructure. That's something our state has not supported in the recent past. And we know that when you're making investments that are good for 20 to 30 years, the idea that you have to pay cash for it only drains our general fund expenditures from what we have available, or our general fund revenues from what we have available for those short-term needs that we are expected to fund every 2 years. Mm-hmm. So I think those will be some real hang-ups as we come back to session throughout the end.
Okay. And two of the bills we spoke with him about, recreational marijuana. Your thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. I think that if we reflect on where the public has gone on this issue, I think thoughts on it have changed pretty significantly over the past decade. And the public has made clear that if the legislature is not going to respond to this, that they intend to. And so I think this is our opportunity. If legislators want to be the ones who pass laws, who create the regulation and taxing around something like recreational marijuana, then from my perspective, I think the House made the right decision, and we will see what that looks like over in the Senate as it's passed the House.
And stand your ground, that looks like that's going to get, it's gotten some traction anyway. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I have never heard any complaints about North Dakota's Second Amendment rights, and I think inch by inch, mile by mile, we continue to just push the boundaries and pass legislation that really is not needed and to some degree is going to become irresponsible. I've always been a firm supporter of the Second Amendment, but I also believe in protections, just like I do for First Amendment rights, just like I do for any of the other amendments that we've put protections on. And never have I heard people feel like in North Dakota their Second Amendment rights have been infringed upon. So I guess we'll debate, multiple gun bills like we have every session since I've been elected.
And finally, we mentioned the COVID restrictions, and because everybody is trying to keep everybody safe, I wonder, has that played a part in sort of working with the other side any easier? Has that been easier because of that, this legislature?
I guess I have always had a good working relationship with the vast majority of my colleagues, no matter if they're Republican or Democrat. And for the most part, really the culture in the Senate, I think, is very respectful of each other. While there hasn't been universal compliance with some of the protections we've put in place, it has been a pretty respectful following of the procedures and the policies that we put in place as legislators to keep ourselves, our staff, and the public safe during the legislative process. So my hope is that we continue to do that. Certainly I have colleagues who have different feelings about things like masks, but every time they've ever come to speak with me, they know that I want to protect them and myself and my family that I go home to. And so generally they respect that.
Senator Erin Oban, thanks for your time and enjoy the rest of your break.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Take care.
Up next, how federal lawmakers hope to make life easier for farmers and ranchers in North Dakota. You're watching Inside North Dakota Politics.
It's tough, it's competitive, and it's game time. Things get real on Friday Night Frenzy. Join KX Sports for the breakdown of the biggest performances and the best upsets from high school teams around the region. Keep up on all the scores and highlights as Phil Bonatti, Luke Gamble, and David Gibson bring you the best Friday night sports action in Western North Dakota. Friday Night Frenzy at 10s, only on KX News, sponsored by ENG Lending.
The COVID-19 pandemic is the worst healthcare crisis of our lifetime. Hospitals, care centers, and their staff are overwhelmed, and it's getting worse. By now, we all know someone who's been affected by the virus. But there is hope. Vaccines are coming and getting closer every day. But while we wait for relief, you need to do your part. Wear a mask, wash your hands, and maintain your distance. It's for now, not forever.
This isn't a 9-to-5 job. This is a late night, early morning commitment to finding you the right house to call home. We have the knowledge, the friendly handshake, the dedication to find not just any house, but your house. The one you can see a welcome mat at the front door, your name over the mailbox, the one with the 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and porch with a view. The home of your dreams, with the people who want to make it a reality. Century 21 Action Realtors.
Here, morning news is not part-time.
Minot's largest bust of fentanyl pills to date has been made.
We don't let national news take over.
Now let's take a look at our top stories today.
Every morning, we catch you up with the latest local stories and prepare you for the day ahead.
We've got a few showers that are trying to make their way across the border right now.
We start our day early,
so we can get you the information you need all day long.
Wake up with Josh, Alicia, Amber, and Nikki on Good Day Dakota, starting at 5. Welcome back to Inside North Dakota Politics on KX.
The dry winter has caused concern for many local farmers and ranchers about feed shortages, but a federal plan could help alleviate that potential problem.
The FEED Act, introduced in part by Senator John Hoeven, brings attention to an issue that local agriculture has struggled with in recent years. Under this proposal, a waiver can be issued by the Secretary of Agriculture to allow haying, grazing, or chopping of a cover plant on prevented plant acres before November 1st in the event of a feed shortage.
Currently across the nation, farmers are not allowed to harvest cover crops until November. Senator Hoeven says a one-size-fits-all approach simply doesn't work due to varying climates.
November 1's a lot different up in our part of the country. It's a lot colder. And so essentially what this law allows is flexibility so the Secretary of Ag can move that date up.
The FEED Act is endorsed by various organizations, including the North Dakota Corn Growers Association and the North Dakota Farmers Union.
That's all the time we have. Thanks for watching Inside North Dakota Politics.
Have a great week.